Um, Thank you. My name is full name Obinna Obioma. I am a Nigerian born, New York-based photographer, visual artist, art director. Kind of delve into video and cinematography from here and there. Um, I predominantly create art-based work around my African heritage, which is infused and informed by identity and individuality, and obviously African heritage. And a lot of those things create the motif for my work. I'm also My work is also inspired by Black women, more so because of my mother and my three sisters, who all had a strong impact in my life. And also just to rewrite the negative stereotypes around Black women in mainstream media and art. I have a little art degree, and back in my school days, I learned how Black women were kind of represented in art very sexually. And I wanted to, like, for my work, to rewrite that, right? It's not just, they can be not just be seen as, sexual objects, but like powerful women, using that bravado to like inform the work. And most of my muses are Black people, Black women, Black men, but more so Black women, but showing them in a light of strength, empowerment, that also all informs my work. I've been doing this for about professionally 7.5 years now. Unprofessionally, who knows, right? Ever since I picked up a camera. But it was my photography, I guess, interest was sparked on by my dad. When I was younger, growing up, he had a camera, these like analog cameras. And I remember one of my first childhood memories. We had like a thing in my household where if it was your birthday, you get a photo shoot. So my dad was an enthusiast. You would get your picture taken. And I was from very young age, very intrigued by how, you could take a thing with a small box, capture yourself, and then days on, he prints it out and shows it to you. Like, what was the magic that went on? And often I would sneak into my parents' room, get the camera out and kind of fiddle with it. My mom caught me a couple of times, but kind of got into trouble for that.
Where was this? Where was this?
So I was born in Nigeria. So I think this was in Kaduna.
Mhm,
It's in the northern part of Nigeria.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, that's my early introduction to photography. And then fast forward, going to school in England and graduating, my mom gifted me a camera. I
mhm.
guess maybe she remembered all the times I used to sneak into into their room. And I just took it from there. Started like teaching myself YouTube University first. And then I realized that wasn't going to be enough information because just at the time, it wasn't like now where you can just type of thing. You really had to deep dive. A lot of the information is kind of scattered.
Mhm,
Um, so I found a photography class first. I was in England at the time,
mhm,
but just graduated my master's, wanted to do photography. I decided I wanted to do photography full time. Found a studio in Abuja in Nigeria. Henry Nweze is the owner of the studio. He was running a class. I've always wanted to be in that class. I loved his work on Instagram. This was
mhm.
early Instagram. This is like when I started following him.
Like
And then
Instagram when they still had the Polaroid.
yeah, the OGs will know this
Yes.
Instagram. The
I
little
just
like
gave my
camera.
age, but it's okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, I just dated myself too, but it's all good. I'm still a young kid at heart. Um,
Aren't
so
you?
I so I find him, I send him a message. I really love your work. I'm moving back to Nigeria. I want to learn photography from you. And I signed up for the class. It was like a 6-week class, basic introduction to photography and all that. He taught me a lot. I'm appreciative of him. He's a mentor to me till this day. And then I got a job. He hired me to be an intern first and then full-time resident photographer for them. And in that period of a year, 2 years, traveled the part of Nigeria with him, photographing weddings and events and stuff, portraits. He taught me lighting and, like the technical part of photography. But there was still something missing for me. I still wanted to be an artist, not just like collecting a check.
Mhm,
Um, and then that kind of informed me as well to go to art school. So I did art school in the U. I came to the US, did art school, graduated, met a couple of good people, great people. Honestly, I'm still friends with them today.
mhm,
But I didn't just learn the technical parts of art school. It also taught me art direction
Yeah.
and creative practice and how you get an idea and put the technical together to make it make sense. So
Mm.
like I said earlier, how my photography is about African heritage and Black women empowerment and, identity. That is what art school taught me. And, obviously I had a technical part of my photography already. So
Yeah.
that was the birth of Mr. Obinna Obioma on Instagram, I guess.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah,
I just want to take it back a little bit to your experience in Kaduna and also just transitioning and moving to school in the UK. What would you
right.
say was the first photo you ever took that really stood out to you that you said, I could probably do this?
Oh, dang. I don't think it was in Kaduna. I don't think it was there. It would have been in England. Um, it would have been in England when I got a camera and I was fiddling around with the camera. I started taking pictures of plants. I think every new photographer, new person who's interested in photography starts with plants, animals,
Mm,
pets,
okay.
sunsets, sunrises, so landscapes. So I started taking pictures of plants and animals first, and then my friends. I guess
Okay.
is when I started taking pictures of people, portraits. I was like, huh, this is, I really liked how it came out, how I was able to pose them, how I could freeze a moment in time and, make a thing, create. To me, it was the idea of creating a thing from nothing. So a picture wasn't in existence. You capture it, now it's in existence and it lives on forever. That moment is immortalized for me. I mean, this is kind of digging very deep, but that was what was in my head. I'm like, dang, I mean, this is a thing.
Yeah.
So my first memory of taking a good picture where I said I can actually do this was, I think it was England. It was going to school in England and taking pictures there, living there for a minute, traveling around. I'm like, okay, this is a thing I can actually do. I actually like how this feels.
Mm. That's really good to know. And I like how you talked about when starting off, you take pictures of plants, of pets,
Yeah.
and different things. But I'm curious to know, could you tell us a little bit? You've talked about Black women a lot,
Yeah.
but could you tell us about like what is your favorite thing to shoot, or person, place, thing, or what it is?
I like to, what do I like to, what's my favorite thing to shoot? I would say people. I
People.
like to capture I mean, this sounds very artsy and maybe a bit pretentious, but I like to capture the essence of people. I like to be able to put a person in good lighting and
Mhm.
photograph them and a, capture a person that they didn't even know existed.
Mm,
I often say when I try and photograph someone, they say, I'm not that photogenic. My understanding of photography is and lighting.
mm,
Everyone is photographable or photogenic in the right light because
mm.
photography is literally the Latin meaning is painting with light, right?
Oh,
So yeah, so if you have the right light, you can paint anything beautifully. If you just understand how the light falls on them, where shadows are. So for me, it's people. I love to photograph people, especially Black people, and just capturing that skin tone, that essence, that bravado, and more so women.
I like that you say you like capturing Black people. I know there's been a lot of discourse, like just in recent times, about the challenges of capturing Black people in
Right.
videos. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about if that inspired you in any way, or like what that difference looks like for those of us who are not, well attuned to
Yeah.
photography and the process behind it? Can you tell us a little bit about those differences?
Yeah. I mean, I think the modern camera and even analog cameras were more or less designed not necessarily with people of color in mind, just because of how technically, I'm not saying it's anything like political, but just because of how the camera reads and how light falls. So when you want to capture Black people, you have to adjust to those particular settings. The light can't be too harsh or too bright because you're going to look washed. You have to adjust for the tones and expose for the right tones on your skin. And all Black people are different shades as well. So that also informs when in post-production how you finish the image off. I think, some of the best photographers have been able to understand this and to not to be, I guess, political, but it's always very beautiful when you see Black faces and white faces being captured very beautifully. and all other races being captured very beautifully in the right lighting. It's not just about Black people or other races, but again, did it inform? Yeah, I guess I wanted to photograph people who did look like me in my projects, because that just it's African heritage. So it would make more sense to photograph people who are of African heritage, or Black people in general, that would tie into the story. It just cohesively makes more sense.
Thank you for expanding on that. I think that just provides a little bit more insight on these differences and how you're able to
Yeah.
people and the lighting. I
Yeah.
know for sure I am definitely someone that likes lighting.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about your process.
Right.
We are able to engage today through Guzangs because of a shoot that you did. And it's Ani Naga. We are going.
Yeah.
And I want to know a little bit about, Obi's process from the shooting process. We're talking from concept to design to the final product. Can you walk us a little bit through that entire process of how you're able to create such magic? And you can use the We Are Going, shoot as an example.
Right. I think, well, with We Are Going and Yinaga and any other photo shoot project I like to do, it starts off with the idea. So I would have an idea, probably comes to me in my sleep, or I'm listening to something or looking at something. And I just it plays on in my head. So I sit with that idea for a couple of days or weeks sometimes. In Aninaga, I sat with it for about, I would say, 2 months.
Oh,
Just,
wow.
trying to flush it out. I had seen the bag because I have I don't have it right now, but I used to have the bags in my previous apartment. And the bags have always just been around me ever since, I was born. I've seen the bags in Nigeria. I used the bags to move to England. I used the bags to travel back to Nigeria. I used the bags to come to America. Like, it's just, and then whenever you go on the plane or whatever, you see the bag. So I guess the idea came to me, these bags aren't just bags, but they are parts of us, right? That's that migration element. So how, as a fashion and art photographer, how do I take migration and make it art? How do those things come together? And that was the idea that was in my head.
And we're talking about the Ghana Must Go
I'm
back.
talking about the Ghana Must Go Anyanaga. Yeah, that's the project. And I guess from there it was okay. It can't be too forced in terms of the visuals, but it also has to pass a meaning. When you see it, it should just automatically click in your head.
Yeah.
So I sat with the idea for about 2 weeks or 2 months. Finally came up with with the concept of, I put a mood board together. I want to make the bags into clothes, because you can juxtapose that idea as well, that when you move, you are moving the bags, kind of, you personify the bags as things or people that you take from point to point. So the idea of making the bags clothes and making the bags making the room our setting of, whenever you move around, you leave parts of you, and whenever you move away, you also leave parts of you scattered in the place. Even if you're living in an apartment, right? When you move in, it's kind of fresh, and then you kind of start putting yourself and the style you want into it. And when you leave, even if it's cup marks on the wall or whatever, you might forget something. You've left parts of you. So that was kind of the idea around the room. But I am not a designer. I might be a lot of things, but I'm not that creative.
Yeah.
So I researched, how do I make the bags? Or how do I make the bags into clothing? Because the bags are very robust. It's hard to actually even manipulate them. And I found a designer, Chioma, good friend of mine now. And I hit her up. Luckily, she was in New York. I'm like, okay, the stars are aligning. She's also Nigerian, of Nigerian heritage. So I messaged her, this is the idea I have. I want us to collaborate, blah, 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 blah. She was down for it. Luckily for me, she had the bag already made. She had one of the outfits already made. We kind of flushed around the idea of having a bag, having, whatever. And then I also hit up another friend of mine, Wura, who's also of Nigerian heritage, who's also based here, to style. So I guess the process of thinking about the idea, putting a mood board together, getting people to collaborate, getting to the shoot day, shooting, and then executing the shoot took us about, at least from start to finish, it took us about half a year to get it together. The shoot day itself was, I think, a full day. because we did photo and video. Everyone was helpful. I think I still have BTS pictures and videos or whatever. But it was beautiful, honestly. And for me, I guess my process is when you have an idea in your head, and you want to conceptualize that idea, you have to think, how do I make this visual? How do I make migration visual art? And to me, that's one of the most important parts of the creating process is the conceptualization of it. Because if you get the concept right, I think the execution is kind of easy if you have the creative prowess, or you can just get someone to photograph or make the thing for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of my process using Anya Naga as like a example.
That's really, I love that you're able to break it down by a process, right? Obviously,
Right.
the big component of that is the conceptualization. If you're not able to conceptualize it, then,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
point. With that, obviously, at Guzangs, we were super impressed when we saw that. I was like, oh my God. I
Wow.
think everyone on our team, we were just like, hey, Ghana must go bags. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Maybe do you want to just, I know it's written, maybe do you want to share a little bit about just like the historical background of this Ghana must go bag,
Yeah.
so that for our viewers, they're able to understand, why we're so impressed and why, the nostalgia that comes with this.
Of course. When I mean, when I was growing up, I just knew them as Ghana Must Go. I never knew why it was called Ghana Must Go bags. So when I thought of the idea and decided to do the thing, I did a little research and found out apparently the reason why they're called Ghana Must Go bags is in the 80s, Nigeria had a president called Shagari, and we had a lot of undocumented Ghanaian migrants, immigrants. And at the time, I think there was pressure on the government because Nigerian economy wasn't doing that well, and they blamed the other, which is the Ghanaians, and there was like a law to expel all the undocumented ones out of the country. It was a lot of them, apparently. I wasn't born then, dated myself again, but so they use, apparently those are the bags, because the bags are very robust. I think it's made of plastic. Those are the bags that they use to courier the things and move back to Ghana. When I found out about that, I'm like, wow, that kind of ties into the narrative of the bags even till this day. People are still using these bags to travel, to migrate from place to place because of the robustness of the bags, because of the usability of the bags. And I guess it just tied together, right? So we're not just carrying our items in the bag, we're also carrying the bag and our history and our memories and moving from place to place. And when we settle in a place, we kind of stick our memories around with our friends or family. We meet new people, we go to get new jobs, we imprint on people. So I guess that's kind of like the history around the bag. Yeah.
And obviously, we had very positive reviews and feedback from this. So, can you just tell us a little bit? I guess maybe you might share that later on, but about like what was your first feeling? Just one word of how you felt when you saw the response to your piece.
I was humbled. I was honestly humbled. That was just my feeling. It was humility. I'm like, wow, I didn't know so many people it resonated with them that well. But yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that. And we really appreciated that. And we appreciate you allowing us to be able to share, your visual art with our audience. With that, I kind of want to just start wrapping us up a little bit. At Guzangs, we're going to do a fast question round. And this is where we just ask you a question. You have two choices and you have to pick one, and it has to be quick. So don't take time to think about it.
Okay.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
Polaroid camera or a disposable camera?
Polaroid. I have too many Polaroids already. I would say Polaroid.
iPhone camera or Android camera?
Can I skip?
No, you have to pick one. I know it's the tough. Maybe we should say iPhone 15 camera.
I mean, if I get my hands on iPhone 15, but the Android is pretty good. Android's pretty good.
Yes. I would agree with you because every time someone takes a picture of me on an Android, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So indoor shooting or outdoor shooting?
Initially, I would have said indoors, but I am liking it to shoot elements and adding elements to my pictures that are natural, like landscapes, the ground, whatever. But the elements sometimes might affect that. But I would still say outdoors. Outdoors adds more elements to a picture or frame.
See, it was supposed to be a fast question.
Okay, all right. I'll talk.
Okay, so the last question, Lagos or New York? There are Nigerians watching this.
Lagos, Lagos. Let's giddy. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Obi, for
Thank you.
being
Thank
able to
you.
speak with us today. And if you had one last thing to say, what would you say to our viewers who, are watching your work? What would you tell them?
Um, whatever you're doing, do it with integrity and do it with hard work. And hard work and integrity never, whatever you're doing, hard work and integrity never is never missed. And you just pray to God or work hard, do your thing. It will work out eventually. Happened for me.
Amazing. Once more, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
We appreciate having you and wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Take care.